From the News Channel 8 studios, let's talk live with your hosts, Natasha Barrett and Melanie Hastings.
Make the Yuletide gay.
The holidays are supposed to be a joyful time, but sometimes the stress and the drama can all get to us. And communication expert Stephen Gaffney is here with some tips to help us communicate well and to avoid a hectic holiday season. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So when we're talking about communication, is it with family? Is it with retailers? To whom are we speaking?
With anybody. It can be a stressful time. So sometimes we just feel like praying, I just got to get through the holidays. But that's usually not the best strategy.
I want to start with just the shopping experience, if we could start right there, because a lot of people are still out getting those last-minute presents, and their nerves, they're on edge, they're stressed out. How do you handle that clerk who might not have the best customer service skills?
Well, first we have to watch our self-talk. If you go into the store and say, oh, it's going to be an awful experience, then we're like waiting for that to happen, and sure enough, something like that will happen. So we just have to manage our expectations and say, okay, there's going to be some challenges, but you know what? I'm going to enjoy the experience because here, and look at the best side of it. We have money to spend. Think about all those people who don't have money to spend on the gifts. So we have a huge opportunity. What's that saying? If not for the grace of God, there go I. And so we just have to realize, we're to be very thankful for what we have, that we can even be in line to buy the gifts.
So you say walk in humility.
Yes.
Before you even hit the mall. Just arrive with your patience and understand that a lot of people are out there trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah, look at the good side of it.
Mm-hmm. You say your focus will determine your futures. Focusing on things like that?
Absolutely. And let's look at family issues. Sometimes you say, oh, this is going to be an awful experience. And then we're just waiting for that relative to say something that we know is going to incense us. And then they do. And we get so incensed by this. But here's the best strategy. Whoever asks the questions controls the conversation. So if a topic goes weird, like somebody brings up politics or religion, and somebody just says an outlandish remark, you just say, okay, well, let me ask a different question. For example, I was at a function where somebody said, what are the biggest regrets? And people went very depressed. So then I just said, well, what's the best accomplishment? What are you most proud of? Or here's an interesting question to ask at the dinner table. What do you think people most misunderstand about you? Because that's an opportunity to showcase a different part of us. And then that adds an interesting dialogue that tends to be more positive.
So you shifted the conversation. But is that rude to the person who presented the question, the initial question?
Well, you can worry about about them, or you could say, you know what, I'm just going to ask a different question. And most people are thankful you changed the topic. But instead of saying that's a ridiculous topic, you just say, oh, well, let me ask you all a question. Just hijack the conversation.
Should we beware of those relatives who are sort of, it almost looks like they're looking for us, like ready to start something every year at every family occasion?
Absolutely, but here's something I've found to be useful. Most of the time when people are negative and there's just their way of being is just really, they're just a jerk. It's a reflection of how they feel inside. It has very little to do with any of us. So when somebody says something negative about about what's going on, it's just a reflection of who they are inside, and where you can be is just feel sad for them. I feel sad.
I call that psychoanalyzing because it's true. With some people, I'll just say, well, that person is not well. Yeah. And so when you look at them that way, you have empathy. Yeah, you go, well, and crazy is some more negative. So it's, well, she's not really well, and so let's all just try to understand, or,
But here's what I mean, is like, let's say you have that relative who picks you apart and says, you got to take care of yourself, and you're not looking well.
You get that all the time, yeah.
And often what that person wants to do is be appreciated for who they are. They often are really lacking compliments. So here's an excellent technique. Just start to say positive things about them. Say, I appreciate that you're worried about me, so how are things going for you? Again, shift the conversation.
Put it back on them.
Don't fight the conversation. What you resist in life persists.
And don't be easily offended.
Absolutely. Yes.
You got to let it just wash off your shoulders.
Because here's the thing, nobody can offend us, and this is going to probably bother some people as they're listening. Nobody can bother us unless we allow them to bother us. Nobody can push our buttons unless we allow it. Nobody's creeping inside our body, moving our lips, and making us do anything. They're doing what they're doing, and then we have a responsibility for looking at how we react. So react differently, and often that will be a change. Consider this. Gandhi once said, be the change you want in the world. So how about this? Be the change you'd like others to be. Set the example. Be positive. Read redirect the conversation. People will follow.
When you allow yourself to be easily offended, you are empowering the other person.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to do that. So you say handle the emotions with finesse. Were those some examples of that kind of finesse that you need to show?
Yes, but here's an actual technique that you can also use. Let's say somebody, again, goes negative, and you don't want to redirect it with a question. What you can say is just acknowledge their emotion. For example, this has been an awful year, and people don't tend to understand me and things. You just say, wow, you sound really upset. And what I have found is if you acknowledge their emotion, it dissipates their emotion.
Wow.
And then you say, so, wow, this is really tough. So what are you going to do? Well, I don't know what I can do. Wow, that's really tough.
Empathy.
Yes.
They want that, and they want to know that people care, really.
Yeah.
That they're really probably crying out.
Absolutely, but here's the thing. Don't debate them. Don't say, well, you know what, you've had a really good year. What are you talking about? Because that inspires that reaction. Just acknowledge their emotion and redirect the conversation.
Oh, man, we could talk about this for hours. Thanks so much for coming in again. That's Stephen Gaffney. He's a communications expert to help us get through the difficult aspects of the holidays. And we're coming right back. Stay with us.
Thank you very much.